Welcome back to Partnerships Unraveled, the podcast where we unravel the mysteries about partnerships and Channel on a weekly basis. My name's Alex Whitford. I'm the VP of Revenue here at Channels, and this week I'm very excited to welcome our special guest, Meaghan. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much.
I'm excited to have you on. We were in our prep call laughing about the experience of being on a rocket ship. I was sharing some stories at Zoom, and right now you are at ServiceNow experiencing some of that same crazy ride. Maybe for the uninitiated, you could give us a bit of an introduction about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I would love to. So I'm Meaghan Moore. I run global partner marketing for ServiceNow. Indeed, a rocket ship. I feel like I climbed on one of the best, companies in the industry about 2.5 years ago. I was previously at SAP for about 11 years, where I built up the global partner marketing organization, and doing the same thing here for ServiceNow, but at a much more condensed timeline and faster pace.
Yeah, and a very different, I imagine, channel architecture. Just give us some remit in terms of what the sort of partner base is, the landscape, so we can get an understanding of what we're playing with.
Yeah, absolutely. So we here at ServiceNow, we're growing very, very quickly. We just reached over $10 billion in revenue, and we expect to hit 30 billion in the next 2 years. So you can imagine the only way to hit those kind of revenue numbers are to really unleash the ecosystem. So when I first joined here, we were supporting maybe 10 partners in the SI category. Now 2 years later, we literally have a remit across all partner types, all the way from hyperscalers, large SIs, resellers, ISV build partners, the whole thing. So we cover all routes to market, all products, all geos.
Awesome. And you cover all marketing across all those partner types.
All marketing. Yeah. Now we're up to probably about 2,800 active partners in our ecosystem. And we expect in the next 2 years that number will be north of 10,000. So we're on a very, very fast growth.
So I always find that sort of scale, we were talking about my time at Zoom, that sort of scale is interesting because you are spinning plates, but you're spinning plates in 3 different rooms in the dark. What sort of early bets are you making to be able to leverage and support that sort of massive exponential partner expansion?
So I think, coming in over the last 2 years, it's really been about laying the foundation. And it's been very interesting because there are certain parts of channel marketing and ecosystem that you just have to have foundational things in place, whether it be an MDF program or a clear program guide and incentives and all of that. So what we've been doing is laying the foundation and then really trying to leapfrog ahead in terms of how we use AI to accelerate and make that more efficient and get our partners ready for this next big transformation that we're currently in the middle of. So I think the most important thing is we really stood up a shared infrastructure with programs, content, engine, co-selling frameworks, really that allow us to scale super efficiently. And so rather than a one-to-one support model, which you can do with 10 partners, we're really at a scale program. And how do you support the thousands that will be coming in?
And I just want to say that number again because it's insane. 10 billion to 30 in 2 years. People do go, and triple revenue across a 2 year period. They don't from a foundation of 10 billion. That just doesn't happen. One of the things that I certainly experienced at my time at Zoom was it takes a certain level of resilience to deal with the amount of pressure knocking off the sides, explosions that happens with that level and pressure of growth. Given that you're aware of what is happening and what is going to happen, how do you sort of intentionally design your team culture, your hiring process, the people you wrap around?
Yeah, I mean, it's so your and my experiences are so similar because Zoom during COVID was very similar to what ServiceNow is going through in the current environment. And I think, especially with AI and with the iterations of how fast this thing is changing, like every 90 days, there's something new. So the pressure we felt even 10 months ago is not nearly even the pressure we experience today, right? Competition's never been fiercer. I think every layer of the infrastructure is transforming as we speak. And so with that, we as a company and we as an organization have to move very, very, very quickly. So I think the most important things, to your point, are just clarity of purpose. We have to have just laser focus on exactly what we're trying to achieve. Because when you have, 600, crisis, priority things thrown at you, how do you pick the ones that matter the most amongst all the noise and everything coming so quickly? So I just want to make sure we have, this is exactly what we are doing. Here's exactly what we're focused on. And this is the why. So the strategic intent behind it. I think, having that psychological safety, the new buzzword over the last 12 months, but how can employees really come forward and say, like, it's either too much and I can't handle it, or I really need help on, balancing this, and where can I land? I think it's super important as a leader in a very, very high growth company that you just have to be laser focused in with your team too on where are they at that point in the journey, and how can you support them in that to make sure that, they've got this and they know that I've got their back. And then I think celebrating the wins, things are coming at us so fast and furiously. Celebrate those wins, say, that was awesome, great job, let's keep going, to kind of keep that momentum and that excitement up. But also recognize the failures, learn from them quick, and then go.
I love it. Right, I'm a real sort of workhorse when it comes to this stuff. That I think a mentor of mine once sat me down in a really dark moment, and he just was like, Alex, we do difficult. He then said a word that I'm not going to say on the podcast because that's what we do. And it was just, that was it. And it was like, it's fine to feel bad. That's totally normal. You're also strong enough. Like, so just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and go again. And I go back to that moment, like, every time I'm in a difficult moment now, because what I didn't need was an arm around me telling me it's all going to be okay, because it wasn't. And we needed to go and fix something really complicated. I just needed someone to be like, yeah, it's difficult. Get over it. It's going to be fine. Like, we'll get there, but today is going to be tough, and you are tough. So it's fine.
And you know what I love too? Your experience, my experience, right? Like, it is such a privilege to be at a company like this, or a company at Zoom in that time, right? That you are in this high growth. It's a very special time in a career and in a moment, and very rare to be caught at one of these companies, right? When you're going through this super massive high growth trajectory. Because we do hard for sure, but when you get over the hard and you have success, I mean, it feels great, right? And to walk out of this whenever we do, and to come back and say, I did that. I was there. I was part of the change. I was part of that growth. I was part of that rocket ship, and it was awesome. I mean, how exciting. I think it's a privilege.
100%. And I was a friend of mine. He's joining a very, very high growth AI company, and he was talking to me about it, and I was just prepping him to say, hey, this is what I think life is going to look like for you, which is going to be amazing and terrible and everything in between. But I shortcutted, I don't know, 8 years on my CV. Like, because I was there for 2 years and I got a major promotion that I was way too junior for, but I was right place, right time, and had the experience of dealing with Zoom. And so someone just went, yeah, run it. You can do it. And
Love
for
it.
me,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so that's always what I tell people, which is like, bet the market, bet the company, and just keep going, because evolution is a step change, right? It's not linear. You get these periods where you just achieve more in 6 months than you did in 6 years. And so it's worth the struggle to put up with the pressure.
And don't you look back on it now and say that was one of the highlights of your career, right? Like, it was so special.
Loved it. Learn. It was also, this is the other thing that I'd say, because it is funny how in the moment you only recognize what's difficult. There was a moment in my career where I could get a meeting with basically anyone in the world.
With anyone,
right?
yes,
And
yes.
fairly junior guy, young in my career, only 8 years in, and I could have called almost anyone and been like, hey, let's talk. And so there are huge advantages. You're just dealing with the onslaught, so you just don't recognize them. But I then left to go to a startup and was like, oh, all these people that were desperate to speak to me now won't answer the phone. And so there is real power that comes with being in that moment. So that resiliency is so strong. What's your sort of tactic when someone comes to you and they're just overwhelmed? Day 3, they're like, oh my God, I was not expecting this.
Yeah. Well, I think what's super important is really to stay present and self-aware of it. Because to your point, you can spin up and you can be crazy and like, wow, this is too much, or I'm so overwhelmed and I have no work-life balance. That's one methodology. The other one is to say, like, this is amazing, right? I am literally in the eye of the storm, per se, of this most amazing, company that's doing this massive transformation in this really unique world. And this is amazing. Like, feel the magic around you, really grab onto it and embrace it, because it's not going to last forever, right? And know that you're going to have days that aren't great, but if you can stay pretty centered and have that foundation of like, what a privilege it is to be here, it makes it so much more fun. I love my job so much, and as crazy as it is, or as much as I'm traveling or the hours that I'm working, I get so much self-satisfaction out of it, so much fulfillment, and it's like top of the world. And I know it's not going to last forever, so I'm really trying to grab onto that and just enjoy it while it's lasting.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I won't give my full TED talk on why work-life balance doesn't make any sense. But there is no balance if you're enjoying it, right? Like I'd rather
Totally.
do a job for 80 hours a week that I love than do a job for 30 hours a week that
Yeah.
bores me. Like to me, I just
Yeah.
never understood that whole piece. Let's double click on focus. So an old mentor of mine
Yeah.
used to tell me, Alex, there's 1,000 ways to win, but we picked this one. When you've got that
Right.
onslaught of loads of ways that you could be successful, how do you keep, and I really mean operationally, because people are just running in 1,000 different directions, how do you keep people on script and on direction?
So I think what's really important, we talked about it a little bit before, is first of all, just the focus on here's the five most important things that we need to achieve this quarter. I mean, part of it is having a fairly tactical view of like a quarter from now. And then there's also keeping the long term in mind of like, and then what do I want to do the next 12 to 24 months? But really having the focus of when we walk out of, this particular quarter, what am I going to look back and say, like, that's exactly what needed to happen. And I did that to prepare for the next step or whatever. So just that focus is important. I think understanding strategic intent and why you're doing everything and why you're headed there is super important too, because that allows you to prioritize. And then you and I talked previously in a different conversation about what I call the strategic no. And that is, you're going to get a lot of requests because a lot of people and organizations and externally are looking for a lot of things from you. But when can you really place this strategic no in terms of, does it tie to our biggest growth levers? And will it scale? If it doesn't answer two of those questions, it's a very polite, gosh, I know that that's something important to you, but we're really focused here now. And what other ways can I get you to your objective, while still staying focused here? So it's really being super hyper collaborative, but being focused at the same time to make sure you're all moving in the same
Yeah,
direction.
I think by nature, I'm someone who sort of tries to zoom out and find the sort of quickest path between A to B. I was forever going to one of my early CEOs and be like, I've had a great idea. And he had a great ideas list, which was him basically politely telling me no. So it's a great idea. We're gonna put
Yeah.
that on the list and we're gonna come back to it. And it was just like we never came back to any of them. But it's because, yeah, when you've got when you understand how to win, any detraction from that away is losing.
Yeah. And I think too, to your point, like having the big ideas list, sometimes one of those may pop and it's awesome. Like I love brainstorming. It's when you get the most innovative and you break glass is when you kind of get in a room with a whiteboard and dream of the art of the possible, like what could be. So I love having the list. You can't hit all of them, but there's some golden nuggets in there for sure.
So one of the things that I get jealous hearing you talk about that is high growth, but also high partner expansion, because that just sounds like a
Yes.
problem to get your teeth into. When you're talking about those
Yes.
very, very different routes to markets, different customer segments in different geographies, how on earth do you build a marketing motion, a revenue motion that's able to support the rate of growth that you're talking about?
So I think it's done strategically with a lot of data and analytics, right? I think the simplest way to think of ecosystem and partners are what can I not get to on my own, or two, what do I not want to get to on my own, meaning ServiceNow on my own. So you can leverage partners to get into white space. You can leverage them to get into geo expansion where we don't have coverage, or you can leverage them to do like say like it's mid market or like a lot of little deals that add up to a lot of money, right? There's different ways to reach different parts of the market. So I think it's super important to look at kind of what are we trying to unlock? Is it net new logos? Is it net new enterprises? Is it net new geos? Is it, what is it? And then really using different partner classes and different partner types where it makes the most sense.
And so one of the things that I think is really sort of interesting in terms of that motion is there's the build motion and then the scale motion requires typically two
Yeah.
different teams, two different functions, two different metrics. How do you know when to go, okay, we've been building this route to market and now we want to scale it wide? Do you have a particular data point that you're after?
Well, I think that all goes to like looking where are the customers, where's the market opportunity, where's the product fit. It starts there, right? It starts at a strategic level at the, the large part of the company saying kind of here's where we want to reach. We figure out where you could put your direct sales and where you have the most, density and expertise in that area. And then you wrap partners kind of on the periphery of all that. Where can partners help accelerate the direct sales? And that would be like it's a sell with motion. Where can partners do it? Where it's a sell through motion. And then in some cases, in many cases, because ServiceNow and our product and just who we are, we're selling to a lot of our partners as well, where they become customer zero. They get a lot of success using ServiceNow across their enterprise, and with all the AI implementations, they can use that as a test case then to go sell to their customers. So it's a really unique. We have all three motions here.
Nice. Pivoting slightly, you gave me a really interesting bit of help that I then ran into a board meeting and shouted at everyone about. So I appreciate that. But one of the things that I find sort of interesting around AI adoption, three ways you can adopt AI.
Yeah.
AI in your product, as ServiceNow is doing, AI in your operations, which is how do we do our job better, faster, cheaper every day, and AI in our go-to-market. The problem is AI in our operations can't be built top down. People are too far away from the detail.
Yes.
There's too much nuance. There's too much customization, which means we need non-technical, non-strategic, and non-process people to stand up and do all of those things simultaneously with AI. How do you encourage that change?
I mean, I think there's a couple ways we're doing it, as you mentioned. One of it is just organically, like what are people playing with? What's in your sandbox? What are you experiencing in your day-to-day job, kind of making it better? I think that's one thing. I think there's also tools that a company can give their employees. Certainly, we have a lot of products here at ServiceNow that we use, ourselves, with Now Assist and other things that just kind of help us do our jobs better. But I think right now it's AI curiosity, right? There's like AI curiosity, AI fluency, AI maturity. There's a lot of different words for it, but we are really encouraging people to just start playing with it, start using it. Make a Zoom background, make a video, make some content. You just start using it to get familiar with it is the most important thing. Have AI office hours, so every month we will all get together and do. What are you using it for? What are you finding the most valuable in all sorts of areas of your life? And then we as a company, we've got some very cool like Teams chats and things going on about, cool things people have seen that either other companies are doing, cool ways that marketing is being enabled by AI out in the industry, or something that someone's discovered here that we can all kind of play around with. So it's just, it's just getting in there and making it part of your remit.
So I love that from a mass adoption perspective. I've been going backwards and forwards on what's more important, depth or breadth, when it comes to AI adoption. From your perspective, what's the priority?
I think right now it's breadth, because I think right now you just have to get a surface level understanding of kind of what's happening out there. And as I mentioned, every 90 days there's some massive big change in AI. Grok coming out, a month ago that we think is just amazing. OpenAI is really cool. You've got Claude with Anthropic. There's so many different tools out there. I think just understanding what they all are and what the pros and cons of all of them are, I think is super important. There are so many startups popping up also with, different tools. So just kind of having a breadth of like, what is out there? What are the industry trends and kind of what's happening? We will get to the depth once we land on something like, okay, that one works well for us as a company or works well for our industry. That's when we will start maybe going deeper in it. Or from a marketing perspective, maybe there's a certain vendor that we land on that we can get scale from as a company. That's when we will go deep. But I think for most marketers right now, just having the breadth and knowing and having a pulse of what's going on in the industry is really important.
Yeah, I think because I think there's lots of fear, which there shouldn't be. I think the people who see this as exciting as an opportunity, that's true. If you see it as terrifying, also true. That's the weird world that we live in. But I think if I sort of look at this from a business consultancy perspective, the 80-20 tells me that a few people are going to make all the changes that deliver all of the value. Yeah. And so I think businesses that index too heavily on, let's make sure everyone's super fluent, it's like that's not where the value is going to come from, right? There's a few people who are going to make radically great system changes, operational improvements, go-to-market improvements that the whole crowd will benefit from.
Yeah, totally.
Love it. Awesome. Well, I also like a bit of advice, not just on the podcast, but about the podcast. We always ask our current guest to recommend our next guest. Who did you have in mind?
Well, one of my favorite in industry that I've worked with, gosh, I'll date myself for about 30 years, is Larry Walsh. He's the CEO of Channelnomics and just has some amazing things not only going on, but he also has a pulse across the entire industry and just an amazing thought leader. So I think you'd have massive success in chatting with him.
Awesome. Meaghan, thanks so much for sharing your wisdom. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much.